All books are either dreams or they are swords. You can cut or you can drug with words. Amy Lowell. There are shelves full of well-known stories and those that are forgotten. And then there are those that we push back onto the shelf because they're the stories we never wanted to hear. And for the story of your life, you can almost hear the rustle of the pages as words are constantly added, even if some words are unwelcome. Rape is the ever-progressing story that never truly ends. The blank pages idly wait to be inked upon, looming in the wings. Sometimes the words are muddled, confused, almost indecipherable by readers of an entirely different world. But to understand the story, you must turn the page. Chapter 1, entitled Reacclimation, follows the tribulations of trying to mold back into a society after being forcibly put upon another realm in just one moment. Everything feels foreign and unwelcome, as if you're stuck in quicksand and everyone around you's in hyperdrive, trying to yell for help, but never heard. But it's the fear that keeps the voices choked and reluctant, lying for nights on repeat, watching it again and again, hearing the words, "If you tell, I'll find you and make you see how easy I was the first time." The power these words can have over a victim can cause them not to report their attack for years. The National Center of Missing and Exploited Children state that more than 44% of rapes and molestations go unreported for 2 or more years. 2 or more years. But for every day, every moment, every second, that victim does not report their crime, they are still a victim. Their story continues with pages upon pages of toxic fear, flooding their bodies and their minds. But even when their predator has been captured, with the way our justice system handles sex offenders today, there's no reason for the fear to ever go away. Skip over to Chapter 5, Parole, where after a small time of their sentence has been served, many sex offenders go on parole, as long as they comply with a few restrictions. And many do, placing themselves on the National Registry list and are able to go out to dinner, hold a position in the workforce, and live for the first time in years without constant supervision. But some choose to evade police by listing themselves as either homeless or at a residence a friend or family member lives in. When families check the National Registry list to make sure that their children are living within a safe, secure environment, they're using what they believe to be a reliable tool, but is no more accurate than 80% of the time. We've been lulled into a false sense of security with these registry lists, almost as if it's a promise to society that we are being protected by ever-watchful police force. But in all actuality, how heavily these animals are monitored are on an area-by-area basis. Mailing in a yearly postcard suffices in a few counties across the United States. But it's not due to cop or government laziness, but unfortunately, to a prevalent catch-22. If we spend all our manpower tracking down the unregistered, then it leaves a sense of unaccountability and freedom for the registered. But if all revenue is into tracking down to monitoring the registered, then the 100,000 or more that failed to register are able to roam free and hunt their next victim. Sex offender attacks go deeper than just actions. They're at the root of their entire being. Their sick perversion cannot be cured by any drug, nor registry, nor parole officer. They're sick for life. And while they cannot be cured, the 24/7 heavy security watch of a prison guard will at least close the book on their actions of terror. But today, an average of 10,000 sex offenders are released into the public every year. 64% of all sex offender attacks happen with children under the age of 12. That could be your niece, your brother, your cousin, or your daughter at the hands of a sick, reoffending pedophile who's out on the streets due to a failing justice system. It has been reported that within 3 years, over 80% have reoffended. Within 5, over 95% have reoffended. And when police do their best effort, and it's not enough, the easiest targets of all come into play. Children. Like Michael Jacques, who had been on parole for just 4 years for a prior child molestation charge when the body of his niece, Brooke Bennett, was found in a shallow grave not too far from his home. Evidence linked him not only to the rape, but the murder of the 12-year-old little girl. The fiscal cost pales in comparison to the personal cost. It has been projected that by 2020, 1 in every 5 people will have been sexually solicited or assaulted in their lifetime. Look around this room. You may already know someone who's been assaulted. It is a cost we all share. Rape is that dirty little secret we'd rather push back onto the shelf and pretend couldn't happen to us. And as a daughter of a 25-year cop, it couldn't happen to me. I was too prepared. But it did. In the moments between the excitement for my best friend's birthday party and the one where I woke in a world exposed, a shift happened. The first time I looked into the mirror, the girl that appeared in the reflection was hollow, lost, broken. It took me months to open up to those closest to me, to tell them the story they never wanted to hear. We thought the book had finally ended when we heard the verdict. Guilty. He was taken to jail and I just tried to move on with my life. Become that normal girl again. He was released a year later for his exceedingly good behavior. It didn't take more than 6 months for the body of little 8-year-old Samantha Gray to be found in a ditch on the side of a road in a quiet city in Idaho, strangled to death. I looked at pictures of a girl barely younger than my sister with that same hollow, twisted look, as if she was a wax model of a horribly traumatized child. Even today, I see that girl. But she's a shadow to remind me to never forget that the system we have now is not working. Too many children are preyed upon by sick, reoffending pedophiles who need the easiest fix to their sick addiction. And with the state of the economy today, it is fiscally irresponsible to spend taxpayer money on releasing and monitoring these individuals when people like Michael Jacques are able to pull the wool over society's eyes. But if they are incarcerated, all chances of finding their next victim is 0. Therefore, I propose that the sentencing for a sex offender should be life in prison without the possibility for parole. Not only will it take these sick people off our streets, but it will allow us to study them in captivity. Recent studies done by Stanford College have shown that inmates have a gene linking them to violent and sexual crime. Further studies could even eradicate all forms of violent and sexual crime. Barbara Tuchman states that books are the carriers of civilization. Without books, history is dumb, literature is silent, and all thought and speculation is at a standstill. We must no longer let this story silently prey upon other victims because we're afraid to stand up. We must actively raise our voices to say no and no more. This affects us all collectively. They are not just victims, but we are survivors. And together, all together, we can finally close the book of rape and leave it on the shelf indefinitely.